I'm Aaron Gelfand. I've been programming LabVIEW more than half my life now. Hit that over 26-year category in the survey yesterday. So been doing this a while. Mostly I do smaller 1 to 3 person projects. I'm a CLA, CPI. So like Stefan presented yesterday, and why are we not? Like Stefan presented yesterday, I've been looking for a reuse configuration library. Like him, I also ended up going with a tree-based approach after having experimented with many other things over the years. My goals in creating my reuse library was I needed to create a configuration reuse library that I can use across projects. I need a default configuration that can always be recreated. If the customer screws up the configuration, there's always a way built in going back. I wanted a method for differentiating my configuration versus my customer's configuration, because I've seen over the decades, I've seen lots of times where the test configuration goes down to the factory floor, and then we're not testing properly. I wanted extensible data types, and I also wanted to support range checking as appropriate. My approach, I also wanted modularity so that modules that were being loaded into the software could say, here are my configuration items. I didn't necessarily want, here's the master list. So I was able to do code modules, define what configuration items they need via an add VI. All items will define a default value, a name, and a delimited tree organization, as well as permissions. So I can show different information to different users. The items might also have metadata. So for numerics, I'm giving the user what units these are in. I may be providing minimum and maximum. I'm providing formatting information. Are we going to show scientific information, or, scientific notation? What are we going to show to the users? Additional ways this worked is I did, for reuse, all I have to do is drop a tree control, and in my event structure, at a minimum, I have to handle 1 event case. Optionally, I can handle several more. I used the tree library that Norm posted on LabVIEW G when it was still OpenG when there were still the OpenG commander and the VIPMs were not nearly as in use today. I actually built that into my own personal VIPM to make it easier to put across my different VMs. I have a VI for handling the double-click event. Most of the times I'm going to have double-click. I have a VI for handling cell edit, tooltips, permission changes, and those are all optional. For mass creation, I use a data table, string table, to tell me here are all my variables. I can do mass creation in Excel. I can also do looping and other things when I have lots of information, lots of very similar data keys that are going to be presented to the user. Here I'm specifying, what type of information, the names, the default values. For ring controls, what options are being presented to the user. For Booleans, I can also specify, instead of are you saying true, false, open, closed, on, off, enabled, disabled. Accessing is done through read VIs. This was done before VIMs were fairly widespread. I do want to rebuild this library because I have to create, right now I have to create a read accessor for every single data type. So that's a little bit of a pain in the butt. But everything is displayed and accessed by the delimited name. So for example, I might have in my tree Modbus, TCP, and then port under that. And each of those delimits 1 level, and I will have a demo. For accessing, as I said, I have read VIs. So in this case, I have read ring control. I have the read ring data type, and I'm reading system external interface. I'm using the coerce to type to turn that into an enum to make my case statement easier. And for the case statement there, I'm selecting between different classes, classic factory pattern. So now I'm going to go into my demo. And so this program is called CBR4. And let's get it on the correct screen here. So here I'm playing with my permissions. Depending upon what the user selects, I show a different subset of information in the tree. This particular program, I can never show all of the configuration at once. Some of my programs, I allow them to show 200, 300, 400 data items and just scroll like crazy. Output polarity for my channels. This is a Boolean where I can specify active high, active low. Notice I do have the revert to default always available, and I have that available both at a system level of revert everything, although that's not exposed to the in this GUI, and I also have it on a channel on a data item by data item basis. Output assignment is another option of a ring control, and here I can actually reassign all my digital channels on the system. If they manage to burn one out, we can just reassign it. So here, I have none, CBR4, bypass idle. This means something to the end users, less so to any of us. And so, have support password hiding. We can show the units. Any questions? And for that picture up at the beginning of the presentation, I don't know if anyone noticed, there is a shark fin on the back of my scuba tank. The Alamo Drafthouse movie chain does Jaws on the water on Lake Travis, so people are sitting there sitting there floating on inner tubes, drinking alcohol, watching the movie Jaws. I am the lead shark.
Nice.
I get to spend 2 hours scaring the ever-living crap out of people.